Whenever I hear the words Titanfall 3, it brings me so much excitement and dread. To so many people, the Titanfall series is one of the most innovative and just straight up fun first-person shooters ever created. The Titanfall IP is a perfect blend of parkour movement and impressive fast-paced gunplay that on its own easily rivaled games like Call of Duty, but with one big twist to the gameplay: the mechs. It was a formula that was unlike anything else on the market, and yet despite the immense hype and critical acclaim that Titanfall 2 received, it's one of the most tragic stories in modern gaming. In this video, I'll be deep diving into the sad story of Titanfall 3 from the unfortunate release of Titanfall 2 and how it remains a cult classic to this day, to the hype and leaks that have fans huffing on the copium just at the idea of Titanfall 3 being in development. And I'll confront the big question: is there a future where Titanfall 3 actually gets developed? I remember the day it was announced that Vince Zampella and Jason West revealed their new studio, Respawn Entertainment, with them dropping a blurred out image of their new IP. This blurry image was a source of excitement and speculation for me for quite a while, and honestly, this is one of the things that got me so involved in gaming leaks and speculation. I probably stared at this image for hours just thinking about what the creators of Call of Duty were going to do next. Cut to E3 2013, where we got a reveal trailer and the multiplayer deep dive for Titanfall. I was absolutely blown away from this game. The months leading up to the launch, I covered it on YouTube, dubbing myself the #1 source for Titanfall. Oh, how the times have changed. The first Titanfall beta kicked off on February 14th, and it ran until the 18th on the Xbox One and PC, and this was such an incredible time. The Titanfall beta was literally peak gaming. When Titanfall 1 dropped in 2014, the developers set out a goal to reinvent the FPS genre, and in many ways, they succeeded. Comprised of developers who created Call of Duty, who, funny enough, also set out a goal back in the day to take down Medal of Honor. Jason West and Vince Zampella were the developers of Medal of Honor Allied Assault, but due to differences and, lack of creative freedom, they decided to stop working for EA, which, funny enough, the internal code name for Call of Duty was literally MOH Killer. So this wasn't Vince Zampella or Jason West's first rodeo of quote-unquote killing a previous title they worked on, and in many ways, Titanfall 2 was wildly successful. It introduced wall running, double jumps for pilots, and then the Titans, which changed the landscape of battle. It was such a nice change of pace from Call of Duty. Like, I remember I grinded Call of Duty primarily, but then when Titanfall launched, I was like, dude, this game is insane. Like, this was like the best thing since sliced bread. But unfortunately, there was a problem. The game launched as an Xbox console exclusive, and it was multiplayer only, which for that time, launching without a single player campaign on limited platforms was quite a bold strategy. And then there was the always online aspect that was quite a turnoff for a lot of people, and because of that, it didn't really reach its full potential. Still, the groundwork was laid. Like I said, my personal experience with Titanfall was an absolute blast. Like, that beta, I'm telling you guys, I played that thing for hours. I probably played for like 19 hours and then slept for the rest of the time. The grind was indeed real. Now, when the game launched, I personally had a blast with Titanfall. I thought the game was good, but it did need quite a bit of work. It lacked the depth that a lot of other games of that time had. And after grinding for about 5 or 6 gens, I decided to put Titanfall down. And that was mainly because I started grinding Battlefield 4 a lot. Absolutely love that game. But honestly, after you do like 1 or 2 generations, it makes sense to kind of let the game go. But I just knew, given how fluid the gameplay was and the unique blend of Titan and pilot gameplay, the series had the potential for greatness. All it needed was a chance. And lucky for all of us, that chance came in 2016 with Titanfall 2, which Titanfall 2 was officially revealed with a teaser trailer that dropped in April with the announcement that it would be released for PS4, Xbox One, and PC, which that right there set the pace. Like, you automatically announced that, hey, PS4 is not going to be unsupported. There wasn't going to be like any console exclusivity stuff. It was launching on PS4. And it launched on October 28th, 2016. This time around, the Titanfall 2 developers delivered on everything fans had been asking for: a full-fledged single-player campaign, an in-depth multiplayer mode, with an even smoother version of the iconic movement system. It was peak gaming. Like, the campaign specifically is what shocked me the most. Instead of it being a throwaway addition, it became one of the best single-player FPS campaigns in years, if not the greatest of all time. It featured really clever game design, an epic and just heartfelt journey, and of course the bond between Jack Cooper and his Titan BT-7274. Titanfall 2 proved that Respawn could truly do it all. As I briefly touched on, the Titanfall 2 multiplayer is and remains one of my favorite multiplayer shooters ever. The blend of parkour and Titan combat made it so every match was unique, and as the developers consistently stressed, it was fun. Till this day, Titanfall 2's gameplay is the smoothest and most fun the genre has ever produced. Respawn absolutely cooked with this game. The multiplayer was in-depth and addictive. The single player was absolutely epic. So what the heck went wrong? Like, how and why is Titanfall 2's release so tragic? Well, unfortunately, it comes down to timing. Plain and simple. Titanfall 2 released in October of 2016, and because of that, it was sandwiched between Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. EA, Titanfall's publisher, and Battlefield's publisher put Titanfall 2 in direct competition with two of the biggest FPS franchises on Earth. How and why did EA or whoever it was, like whoever had the bright idea to put Titanfall 2 up against COD and Battlefield? Like, you have two EA games that are first-person shooters and you decide to release them up against COD? Like, what were they thinking? Obviously, they weren't thinking. Battlefield 1 launched on October 21st, 2016, Titanfall 2 released October 28th, 2016, and then Call of Duty Infinite Warfare alongside Modern Warfare Remastered launched on November 4th, 2016. Like, this was such an insane oversight and just plain stupid business decisions. Despite Titanfall 2's critical acclaim, the game ended up being overlooked by the mainstream audience. The sales underperformed, and the game really never got a chance to shine as brightly as it should have. But here's the thing. Titanfall 2 never truly died. Over the years, word of mouth started to spread. YouTube creators, streamers, and critics kept revisiting the game. The players who skipped it at launch discovered just how good it was. And gradually, Titanfall 2 developed a reputation as not just a great FPS, but many people consider Titanfall 2 the best FPS of all time, and it was because of that reputation that became the foundation of the hype for a third game, the infamous Titanfall 3. It's time to take your pills, pilots, because we're in for a wild ride. When Titanfall 2 released, everyone who played it knew immediately this game was something truly special. And naturally, fans expected Respawn to continue building on the foundation that Titanfall 2 built. Titanfall 3 was inevitably going to release. After all, why wouldn't EA and Respawn want to follow up the game that many people consider was so successful? The community waited and waited, the silence and hype began growing. Things weren't looking good. However, job listings on Respawn's website suggested that an FPS game was in development, sparking quite a bit of hype and discussion. Industry insiders whispered about potential prototypes being tested, but nothing really concrete. Behind the scenes, something very different was happening. Respawn wasn't developing Titanfall 3, they were pivoting, and that pivot would change the trajectory of the studio and franchise forever. In February 2019, out of nowhere, Respawn Entertainment dropped a new game. Surely that game would be Titanfall 3, right? Like, we waited a few years, Titanfall 2 is critically acclaimed. This game has gotta be a new Titanfall. Well, no. The game they announced was a new Battle Royale game. I hate saying that word, but Apex Legends, which is a game set in the Apex universe, right? No, it was the Titanfall universe. It's a Titanfall spin-off. The Battle Royale game hot dropped, literally no multi-month marketing campaign. They were like, boys, where we dropping? No build up, let's just dive in. And just a sudden launch trailer and it hot dropped. It was a really bold strategy, but in the height of the Battle Royale craze, it worked. Within a week, Apex Legends had 25 million players, and within a month, it had 50 million players. For contrast, Titanfall 2 sold about like 4 million copies, I believe it was. So yeah, Apex Legends, a free-to-play game, was incredibly successful, and as I mentioned, Apex was set in the Titanfall universe, but with some major differences. No wall running, no really advanced movement. Instead, players fought as legends, unique characters with special abilities in squads of 3. So yeah, Apex was a hero shooter Battle Royale game that was incredibly fun at the time, but it did use a lot of Titanfall's assets. The thing that comes to mind is the Harry Potter scene where, you know, Harry's like, how dare you stand where he stood? And from what I heard, Apex was essentially them, you know, experimenting with the Titanfall IP, and they were trying to figure out ways to expand the Titanfall multiplayer, and thus we got Apex Legends that was very successful. And for EA, Apex was a dream come true. It was their big old cash cow, a free-to-play game packed with microtransactions, loot boxes, and very successful with a lot of players. Apex became Respawn's biggest moneymaker yet, and EA was ecstatic. Now, before Apex Legends, it was believed that Respawn was quietly working on Titanfall 3, but after Apex Legends' success, it was clear that Respawn's resources and priorities for the studio had been redirected. The developers were pretty honest about the decision to prioritize Apex over Titanfall 3. They confirmed that a new Titanfall wasn't in active development. The studio simply didn't have the bandwidth, as Apex Legends was the priority, and given the success of that game financially, it didn't make financial sense for EA or even Respawn to justify taking away resources off of Apex for a new Titanfall. Now, I do want to be clear, I don't mind Apex Legends. I thought it was a solid BR. In fact, it was one of the most polished battle royale games in a while. It had quite a few quality of life changes and features that people had been begging for or not even like knowing existed. Like, it released with new mechanics like the mid-game respawning, which is fitting given the company is, you know, named Respawn. Now, as much as I look at Apex and I'm like, look what you did to my boy, you're supposed to not be here. It was supposed to be Titanfall 3. Why couldn't it have been them? Apex did give Respawn the financial security and stability that allowed it to take on other projects like Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor. Now, Apex, from a Titanfall fan's perspective, this game being successful came at a cost. It wasn't just that Titanfall 3 was being delayed or anything like that, it was that Titanfall 3 completely disappeared. It was later confirmed that a Titanfall 3, or at least a Titanfall game, had been prototyped, but again, nothing really concrete. In the months and years to follow, Apex Legends' continued success was the first of many heartbreaks that the Titanfall community would face. For nearly a decade, only leaks and rumors have teased the existence of Titanfall 3, but prior to 2023, there was really nothing concrete to go off of, as they were really just rumblings. In early 2023, however, a report from Bloomberg was released that contained some pretty big news that Respawn Entertainment had quietly shelved Titanfall 3 prototypes that dated back to 2017, but the big news was the cancellation of a spin-off project called Titanfall Legends. But that project was inevitably canceled, with the intentions of redirecting company resources to the live service games like Apex, which this was the first time we got some sort of confirmation that Titanfall 3 was in the works in some capacity, which we obviously don't know the extent of the prototypes besides the one being codenamed TFL. According to Jason Schreier, they said this in the Bloomberg article: Electronic Arts canceled a game based on the popular Apex Legends and Titanfall franchises, according to 3 people familiar with the matter. The game, which hadn't been publicly announced, was in production at the EA developer Respawn Entertainment. The canceled project, codenamed TFL or Titanfall Legends, was a single-player game set in the universe shared by Apex Legends and the Titanfall games. It was directed by veteran designer Mohamed Alavi until he left the company in early 2022. Although the game hadn't been advertised, EA had hinted at it several times. Later in 2023, after years of neglect, Respawn decided to quietly push fixes to broken Titanfall 2 servers, which many assume was done by a janitor, like a single janitor just mopping the floors. He's like, let me go fix Titanfall 2 really quick, because why would Respawn care about Titanfall 2 in 2023? Well, after the patch, the servers and matchmaking started working again, and this is when the delusion and schizo posting started. The message of the day started showing strange and coded messages. These weren't normal patch notes or anything like that. The messages were sometimes really cryptic, partial messages that were, odd formatting, and the community immediately latched onto it, thinking that these MOTDs might be like a part of a greater ARG of some sorts for Titanfall 3. Now, this started a wave of speculation. People spent hours trying to decode the text and find the meaning of what the heck was going on with Titanfall. Was this going to lead up to a reveal or marketing for Titanfall 3? Well, unfortunately, nothing ever came of it. Respawn didn't confirm or deny anything, and the messages eventually faded away into nothingness. But this was a pivotal moment for the community and hopefully showed Respawn and EA just how hungry fans have been for something new in the Titanfall series. This brings us to 2025, the first big leak for Titanfall 3 This time they came from two well-known Apex Legends data miners, Yorotuski and Asvaldator. These names were credible amongst the Apex community. I hope I pronounced Yoro's name right, let's just call him Yoro. But these Apex leakers being pretty credible is what drove the community so crazy, and that's why the leak they spoke about was enough to send the community's hype into overdrive. According to the leak, Titanfall 3 wasn't just in development, the game was almost complete. The supposed insider information painted a pretty interesting picture that I still think about till this day. According to the two Apex leakers, Titanfall 3 was being built on Unreal Engine 5, and it featured a full single-player campaign. The third game would also be bringing back all of the classic Titanfall 2 multiplayer modes, and also bring a brand new flagship mode called Extraction. It also featured live service elements like a battle pass, and the part that had me sold was the game would be revealed at the Game Awards of 2025, and a release date was planned for a 2026 release. It sounded too good to be true, and unfortunately it was, at least according to another credible insider. After the Titanfall 3 leak dropped, industry insider and journalist Jeff Grubb decided to crush all of our hopes and dreams. Jeff Grubb has a long track record of leaks and rumors, and typically when he reports on something, it has some sort of validity, whether it's from a first-hand source or a second-hand source. And when he commented about the Titanfall 3 leak, he plainly stated this, and I quote, "The Titanfall 3 leaks were quote-unquote not real." He then clarified that Respawn was not working on Titanfall 3, and that the only Titanfall related project that Respawn Entertainment was working on in recent years was the smaller experimental spin-off Titanfall Legends that we spoke about. And that was canceled when EA decided to do layoffs that we spoke about earlier. So whatever Yoro and Asvaldator heard about Titanfall 3, according to Jeff Grubb, this info wasn't true. Asvaldator and Yoro both commented on Jeff Grubb's claims, and they said this: Titanfall 3 is gone. Spoke again with the source earlier this morning, and everything about it was correct, including the quote-unquote almost finished despite what the Bloomberg article said. This was obviously another critical hit for the community. In a matter of days, the dreams of an almost complete Titanfall 3 built in Unreal Engine 5 seemed like a reality, but no, we can't have nice things. Our dreams were in fact just memes, and thus the cycle of hope, rumor, and heartbreak has been the harsh reality for Titanfall since the second game was released. So as the dust settles from the April layoffs following the cancellation of Titanfall Legends and the other unannounced projects, Respawn Entertainment faces a pivotal moment in its future of the studio. Right now, Respawn is currently focusing on a mix of established franchises and new ventures, primarily focused on Apex Legends and the Star Wars Jedi series. And because of that, the possibility of a Titanfall revival remains uncertain. EA's recent Q1 2025 earnings call highlighted plans for a major Apex Legend overhaul, with that revival essentially being Apex 2.0, which that is expected to happen likely after Battlefield 6, with it likely being slated for sometime in 2026. Now, Respawn is also working on developing the final chapter in the Star Wars Jedi trilogy, which is set to be a sequel to Jedi Survivor, focusing on concluding Cal Kestis' story, which that game is still likely a few years away, possibly hitting a 2027 release date, but again, it's hard saying. Now, additionally, Respawn is collaborating with BitReactor on Star Wars Zero Company, a strategy-like game, kind of like XCOM. And then there's also the canceled Star Wars FPS that took quite a bit of the studio's resources and time. So let's just say Respawn has been pretty busy lately. Now, sure, they can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time with working on both Apex and Star Wars, but that does raise the big question. Is Titanfall 3 really in Respawn's future? Respawn's leadership, including Vincent Pella, has repeatedly stated that Titanfall is central to the studio's identity, with statements ranging from 2023 to 2025. But at this point, are these commitments really to be believed? Like, is Titanfall a part of Respawn's identity, or has the studio's identity shifted to turning out licensed games and continuing to milk the battle royale genre? In my opinion, if Apex's 2.0 revival dominates like Apex Legends launch, I just don't see a world where Apex and Titanfall can coexist. In the words of a certain prophecy, neither can live while the other survives. I don't mean to doom and gloom, but I think that's just the harsh reality of the situation we're in. And then to couple that with the cancellation of projects like Titanfall Legends, which, to be clear, I'm sure Titanfall Legends wasn't the true Titanfall 3 game that we were wanting to get, so I'm fine with it being canceled. Like, honestly, just from the name of it, it sounds like a hero shooter with a single player that like goes over the various like Titanfall Legends. Like, it really does sound gimmicky. You know, Titanfall Legends kind of sounds like, you know, Team Fortress 2 or Overwatch. Instead of a battle royale, it is just a hero shooter. And if that was the game they were developing, it's probably a good thing they canned it. But regardless, it doesn't exactly inspire faith that Titanfall is a focus for the studio, or is the quote-unquote core of Respawn's DNA. Now, this is all not mentioning the fact that Vince Zampella, the head of Respawn, is now the head of Battlefield Studios. So his time is pretty stretched thin as it is. Again, all of this is to say that it doesn't really seem like Titanfall is going to be a priority for a long time. Titanfall's future really hinges on balancing Apex and Star Wars commitments and other licensed games, which are probably far more profitable than Titanfall 2 was for them. Once again, great job pitting Titanfall 2 up against two FPS juggernauts. Real genius thinking, guys. I think we just have to kind of accept that Titanfall 3 will likely never happen, just like Battlefront 3 and Half-Life 3. Why do I have to really like games that never get a third installment? Am I cursed or what is going on? I really want Titanfall 3 to happen, but the longer we wait, the more Respawn Entertainment changes internally, and because of that, the less likely we are going to get something that is a fitting follow-up to the incredible Titanfall 2. In the end, the story of Titanfall 3 is a pretty tragic tale that should be considered an important lesson in gaming. It's a story about what could have been, a true masterpiece of game design, and for the latest entry, it was released at the worst possible time ever, completely crippling any potential of a third installment. The harsh reality is that the insane success of Apex Legends served as a lifeline and a curse for the franchise and studio. It gave Respawn the stability to thrive, but in doing so, it effectively put an end to any true Titanfall sequel, at least for now. The constant cycle of rumors creating so much copium for the fan base that refuses to let go. Take your pills, pilots, I'm with you guys. Only to consistently have our hearts broken. The dream of Titanfall 3 is a testament to the love for what Titanfall 2 accomplished. A game that is so exceptional, it created a following that to this day still believes in this series. While the future of the Titanfall series remains uncertain and just plain grim if I'm being honest, the legacy and impact this series has had on me, and I know so many of you guys as well, lives on. We might not ever get another Titanfall game, who knows, but I still hold out hope that Respawn, Vince, if you hear us, will stick to its word that Titanfall is still the core of their DNA and finally give us something new. But until then, stand by for Titanfall. Hey, thanks for watching this video, guys. It took me a while. Hopefully you enjoyed the content. Hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, this has been Wes, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.